My name is Martha Coleman. I'm 61 years old, and I'm about to tell you something I've never told anyone. Not the police, not my family, not even my closest friends. I've kept this secret for 6 years because I didn't know how to explain it. Didn't know if anyone would believe me. And honestly, I was afraid of what would happen if the wrong people found out. But I need to tell this story now. I need someone to know what really happened on my farm in Kentucky, what lived in my barn for 6 years, and what it did for my daughter. This starts in 2018. I was 55 years old, living on a small farm outside of Brownsville, Kentucky. 20 acres, mostly woods, with an old farmhouse and a barn. My husband Robert had died the year before. Heart attack. Sudden. Devastating. He'd been the one who maintained everything. Fixed fences, managed the horses, kept the property running. After he died, it was just me trying to hold everything together. Me and my daughter, Lily. Lily was 9 years old in 2018. She's autistic, nonverbal, functions at what doctors called a lower support needs level. But she needed constant supervision. She couldn't tell me if something was wrong, couldn't call for help, couldn't explain what she was feeling or thinking. We communicated through gestures, through routine, through the careful language of repetition and patience that we'd built over 9 years. Lily loved animals, the horses especially. She'd spend hours in the barn, sitting quietly, watching them. It was one of the few places she seemed truly peaceful. After Robert died, our routine became everything. Structure was what Lily needed. Same wake-up time, same meals, same bedtime. Any disruption would send her into distress, stimming behaviors, meltdowns that could last hours. So when she started disappearing at night, I panicked. It started in July 2018. I put Lily to bed at 8 p.m. like always, read her the same 3 books we read every night, made sure her weighted blanket was positioned exactly how she liked it, kissed her forehead, turned on her nightlight, closed her door most of the way, leaving it cracked like she preferred. The next morning, I went to wake her at 7 a.m. like always. She wasn't in her bed. My heart stopped. I ran through the house, calling her name, even though I knew she couldn't answer. Checked every room, the bathroom, the closets, the basement. She wasn't inside. I ran outside in my nightgown, barefoot, screaming her name. Checked the yard, the woods. Ran toward the barn. Terrified I'd find her hurt, lost, scared. I found her sleeping peacefully in the hayloft, curled up like a cat, covered in bits of straw. "Lily," I shook her awake. "You can't do this. You can't leave your room at night. Do you understand? It's dangerous." She looked at me with those calm brown eyes and made a soft sound. Not distressed, not scared, just content. I brought her inside, checked her over for injuries. Nothing. She was fine. Better than fine. She seemed more relaxed than usual, less anxious. That night, I locked her bedroom window, made sure the lock was secure, checked it 3 times. The next morning, she was gone again. Window still locked, door to her room still closed. But Lily was not in her bed. I found her in the barn again, same spot, sleeping peacefully. "How are you getting out?" I asked her, frustrated, frightened. "How are you doing this?" She didn't answer, couldn't answer. Just looked at me with those calm eyes. I started locking the front and back doors at night. Not just the simple locks. I installed chain locks at the top of the doors, high enough that Lily couldn't reach them. Didn't matter. She still got out. I'd wake up, find the chains undone, doors closed but unlocked, and Lily gone. Every morning I'd find her in the barn, always in the hayloft, always sleeping, always fine. After 2 weeks of this, I was exhausted, terrified. I didn't understand how she was doing it, or why. I considered calling her doctor, getting her evaluated, maybe getting medication to help her sleep through the night. But she seemed so happy, so peaceful. The nighttime wandering didn't distress her at all. If anything, she was calmer during the day, less prone to meltdowns, more engaged. So I made a decision that probably makes me a terrible mother. I let it happen. I stopped fighting it, stopped trying to lock her in. Instead, I made sure the path to the barn was clear and safe, left lights on, made sure there was nothing she could trip over or hurt herself on. Every night, Lily would wait until she thought I was asleep, then she'd slip out of her room, out of the house, and go to the barn. Every morning, she'd be there, sleeping in the hay, and I'd bring her back inside for breakfast. It became our new routine. I told myself she just loved the horses, that being near them comforted her, that the barn felt safe to her in a way the house didn't anymore. Maybe because Robert had spent so much time there, maybe she felt closer to her father in that space. I told myself a lot of things to explain it, but there were signs I ignored, signs I should have paid attention to, the sounds. At night, sometimes I'd hear things from the barn, not horse sounds. I knew what horses sounded like. These were different, deep, resonant, almost like vocalizations, communication. I told myself it was just the horses making unusual sounds, or coyotes in the woods nearby, or my imagination. Then there was the food. I kept horse feed in the barn, of course. But other food started disappearing. Vegetables from my garden, meat I'd left on the back porch to thaw. Once an entire loaf of bread I'd set on the porch railing. I blamed raccoons, possums, wild animals, and the footprints. After it rained, I'd sometimes see prints in the mud near the barn. Huge prints, easily 17, 18 inches long, vaguely human-shaped but wrong. Too wide, too deep, the stride length too long. I told myself they were just distorted horse prints, that the mud had made them look bigger than they were, that I was seeing patterns that weren't there. For 3 years, I told myself these things. 3 years of Lily disappearing every night and returning every morning. 3 years of strange sounds and missing food and impossible footprints. 3 years of pretending everything was normal. Looking back, I don't know if I was in denial or if some part of me knew the truth and was too afraid to confront it. Lily turned 12 in March 2021. She'd been doing her nighttime visits to the barn for nearly 3 years at that point. It was just part of our life, part of our routine. I'd started thinking of it as Lily's special time, her alone time with the horses, something that brought her comfort in a world that was often overwhelming and confusing for her. I didn't question it anymore, didn't worry about it. It had become normal. Then, one morning in April 2021, everything changed. I woke up at 7 a.m. like always, went to the barn to collect Lily like always, but she wasn't in the hayloft. I called her name, walked through the barn, checked the stalls, the tack room, the feed storage. She wasn't there. Panic hit me like a physical blow. In 3 years, she'd never not been in the barn in the morning. This was the pattern. This was the routine. Lily didn't break routines. "Lily," I called louder. "Lily, where are you?" Then I heard it. A sound from the abandoned section of the barn. The back section of the barn hadn't been used in years, not since before Robert died. It was full of old equipment, broken tools, rotting hay bales. The door to that section had been nailed shut. Robert had done it years ago because the floor was unstable and he didn't want anyone going in there. But I heard something from behind that door. A sound. Movement. I approached slowly. The door was slightly open. The nails I remembered seeing, they were bent, pried out. The wood around them was splintered. My hands were shaking as I pushed the door open wider. "Lily, are you in here?" The space was dark, musty. I could barely see. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw things that didn't make sense, things that shouldn't be there. A bed. Not a real bed, a makeshift one. Hay and old blankets piled in the corner, arranged deliberately, shaped like someone had been sleeping there. Bones, small animal bones, rabbits, squirrels, maybe birds, piled neatly against the wall, cleaned, organized, claw marks on the wooden walls, deep gouges, made by something with immense strength, and in the far corner, barely visible in the dim light filtering through cracks in the wall, a shape, massive, curled up, breathing. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I was seeing. The shape was too big to be human, too big to be any animal I knew, 8 feet long at least, even curled up. Covered in dark reddish-brown hair, the shoulders alone were wider than any man's. It was sleeping, deep, rhythmic breathing, unaware of me standing there. My mind was screaming at me to run, to get out, to call the police, to get help. But before I could move, I heard a soft sound behind me. I turned. Lily was standing there, in her nightgown, hair messy from sleep, looking at me calmly. Before I could grab her, before I could pull her away to safety, she walked past me, walked directly toward the creature in the corner. "Lily, no!" I whispered frantically. "Come here. Come to Mama now." She ignored me, sat down next to the massive sleeping form, leaned against it like she'd done it 1,000 times before, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The creature stirred, shifted, opened its eyes. I saw its face for the first time. Not human, not ape, something in between. Broad, flat features, deep-set eyes that caught the light and reflected it back. Intelligent eyes, aware eyes. It looked at Lily, made a soft sound, low, gentle, almost like a purr. Then it looked at me. We stared at each other for what felt like forever. Me, frozen in the doorway. It sitting in the corner with my daughter leaning against its side. Then it did something that made my heart stop. It placed one massive hand, easily twice the size of mine, on Lily's shoulder. Protective, gentle. And I understood. This thing had been living in my barn for 3 years, and my daughter had been visiting it every single night. It had been watching over her, protecting her. All this time, I backed out of that room slowly, carefully, not making any sudden movements. The creature watched me the entire time, its eyes following my every step, but it didn't move, didn't stand, didn't threaten, just watched. Lily stayed sitting next to it, completely calm. She looked at me once, made a soft sound, the sound she made when she was content, and leaned further against the creature's side. I closed the door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the handle. I walked back to the house in a daze, my mind unable to process what I'd just seen. There was something living in my barn, something massive, something that shouldn't exist. And my 12-year-old autistic daughter had been spending every night with it for 3 years. I sat at my kitchen table staring at nothing, trying to understand, trying to make sense of any of this. The logical part of my brain said, call the police, call animal control, call someone. There's a dangerous animal in your barn with your child. But another part, a part that had watched Lily lean against that creature, like she trusted it completely, that had seen the gentle way it placed its hand on her shoulder, that part said, wait. Lily emerged from the barn 20 minutes later, walked back to the house like she did every morning, came inside, waited for me to make her breakfast. I made her oatmeal with cinnamon, the way she liked it, set it in front of her, watched her eat. Lily, I said softly, that thing in the barn, how long have you been going to see it? She didn't answer, couldn't answer, just ate her oatmeal calmly. Does it hurt you? Has it ever hurt you? She looked up at me with those brown eyes, made a sound, a happy sound, then went back to eating. I spent that entire day in a fog. I kept walking to the window, looking at the barn, trying to decide what to do. By evening, I'd made a decision. I had to see it again, had to confront it, had to understand what it was and what it wanted with my daughter. I waited until after dark, until I knew Lily would be heading to the barn for her nightly visit. I followed her at a distance, watched her slip through the barn door. Then I waited 10 minutes and followed. The main section of the barn was empty, except for the horses. I could hear them moving in their stalls, calm and undisturbed. Whatever was living in the back section, the horses weren't afraid of it. I opened the door to the abandoned section. This time, I'd brought a flashlight. The creature was awake, sitting against the wall. Lily was beside it, playing with something. Looked like smooth stones she'd collected. The creature watched her play with an expression that looked almost fond. When my flashlight beam hit it, the creature turned to look at me, didn't flinch from the light, just watched. I stepped inside. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I forced myself forward. "I don't know what you are," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't know where you came from or why. You're here. But that's my daughter, and I need to know she's safe." The creature tilted its head slightly, listening. Could it understand English, or just responding to my tone? "If you wanted to hurt her, you've had 3 years to do it," I continued. "If you wanted to hurt me, you could do it right now. So what do you want? Why are you here?" It didn't respond, just looked at me with those intelligent eyes. Lily made a sound, not distress, just acknowledgement. She looked at me, then at the creature, then back at me, like she was trying to tell me something, like she wanted me to understand that everything was okay. The creature slowly, so slowly, stood up. I gasped and stepped back. It was massive, at least 8.5 feet tall, probably more. Broad shoulders, long arms, covered entirely in thick reddish-brown hair. Its hands were huge, fingers thick and powerful. It could kill me in seconds if it wanted to, but it didn't move toward me. Instead, it walked to the corner where its makeshift bed was and picked something up. Lily's jacket. The pink one with the unicorn on the back that had gone missing 6 months ago. I'd looked everywhere for it, thought we'd lost it somewhere. The creature held it out to me, offering it. I took it with trembling hands. The jacket was clean, carefully folded. It had been kept safe. "You've been taking care of her things?" I whispered. The creature made a sound, low, rumbling, not aggressive, almost like confirmation. I looked at Lily sitting calmly on the floor, arranging her stones in a pattern. She was completely at ease, more relaxed than I'd seen her in months, maybe years. And I realized something that changed everything. This creature, whatever it was, had been protecting my daughter, watching over her during her nighttime visits, keeping her safe, keeping her company for 3 years. Lily, who struggled to connect with other people, who found the world overwhelming and confusing, who had so few things that brought her peace. She'd found something, someone, that didn't judge her, didn't expect her to be different than she was, just accepted her. And it had been happening right under my nose for 3 years. I left the barn that night and didn't lock the door, didn't try to keep Lily away. What would be the point? She'd been going there for 3 years. She was clearly safer there than I'd realized. Over the next few weeks, I started leaving food intentionally, not in the abandoned section. I didn't want to intrude on its space, but near the barn door. Bread, vegetables from my garden, leftover meat from dinner, always at dusk, before Lily's nightly visit. Every morning, the food was gone. I started watching from my kitchen window at night. I'd see Lily slip out, walk to the barn. About an hour later, I'd see a massive shadow move past the barn door. The creature coming out briefly, always checking the perimeter, always looking around, then returning inside. It was guarding her, making sure nothing approached while she was there. I started researching, spent hours online reading about Sasquatch sightings, forest creatures, cryptids. Kentucky had scattered reports going back decades. Large bipedal creatures in the woods, usually described as shy, avoiding humans. But there were a few stories, rare ones, of them forming bonds, protecting children who'd gotten lost, leaving gifts for people who'd shown them kindness, watching over remote properties. Was that what this was? Had this creature chosen my barn, my property, because it felt safe here? And had it formed a bond with Lily because she was the only one who'd approached it without fear? Lily didn't fear anything the way other people did. She didn't understand the concept of monster. She just saw another living being, and maybe that's what drew them together. I started leaving other things with the food. A blanket when the weather got cold. A tarp when the barn roof started leaking. Tools that the creature might use. though I didn't know if it would. The blanket disappeared. The tarp was found in the abandoned section, carefully arranged to cover the leaking area. The tools were untouched but moved, like they'd been examined. Months passed. Summer turned to fall, fall to winter. The routine continued. Lily's nightly visits, the creature's silent guardianship, my quiet support from a distance. I told no one. Who could I tell? Who would believe me? And more importantly, what would happen to the creature if people found out? It would be hunted, captured, killed, or put in a cage somewhere. I couldn't do that. Not to something that had been protecting my daughter, not to something that had shown more gentleness and patience with Lily than most humans did. By early 2022, I'd grown almost comfortable with the situation. Strange as it was, it had become part of our life, part of our routine. I'd go to the barn during the day sometimes when the creature was presumably sleeping. I'd clean up, bring fresh hay, leave supplies, never going into the abandoned section. That was its space, but maintaining the barn like I had a silent tenant, which I suppose I did. Sometimes I'd see evidence of its presence, tracks in the mud, claw marks on trees near the property line, territorial markers maybe. Once I found a dead deer at the edge of the woods, already field-dressed. More food than I needed, but I took what I could use and left the rest. It was gone by morning. Was it providing for us? Hunting and leaving food like it was part of the household? The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I found it oddly touching. Lily turned 13 in March 2022. 4 years of nightly visits to the barn. 4 years of having a guardian I couldn't see, couldn't speak to, couldn't fully understand, but I understood enough. That creature cared about my daughter, protected her, gave her something she needed, a connection that didn't require words or social skills or any of the things that made the human world so difficult for her. Then, in August 2022, everything started to change. Lily was getting older. Her needs were changing. The local school district had a specialized program for autistic teens, but it was 2 hours away in Louisville. Residential program. She'd stay there during the week, come home on weekends. I'd been resisting it for years, couldn't imagine sending her away. But her doctors, her therapists, everyone said it would be good for her, help her develop life skills, give her more independence. I started the application process. Tours, evaluations, meetings. By October, she was accepted for the following year. She'd start in September 2023, which meant we'd need to move. I couldn't drive 4 hours a day to visit her. I needed to be closer. I'd have to sell the farm and I'd have to leave the creature behind. The guilt hit me like a physical weight. This being had protected Lily for 5 years, had asked for nothing except a safe place to exist, and I was going to abandon it. But what choice did I have? Lily's education, her future, her development, that had to come first. I was her mother. She was my priority. Still, the thought of leaving made me sick. I started preparing, listed the farm for sale in December 2022, found a small house near the Louisville school, made arrangements, and I tried to figure out how to say goodbye to something I'd never even had a real conversation with. The farm sold in March 2023. Fast sale. Someone wanted the land for development. We had to be out by June. 3 months to pack up 6 years of memories and one impossible secret. I started leaving less food, gradually reducing what I put out, trying to, wean the creature off my support? Prepare it for us leaving? I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't know if it would even understand. 2 weeks before the move, I did something I'd never done before. I went to the abandoned section in the middle of the day, knocked on the door, waited, heard movement inside. Then the door opened slightly. The creature standing there, looking down at me. "We're leaving," I said, my voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I don't know if you understand, but we're moving away for Lily. She needs special schooling and we have to go. I'm so sorry." The creature stared at me, made a low sound, mournful, like it understood. "Thank you," I continued, crying now. "Thank you for watching over her, for protecting her, for giving her whatever it was you gave her. Friendship, acceptance, safety. Thank you." It reached out slowly. I flinched but didn't step back. Its massive hand touched the top of my head, gently, so gently. Then it withdrew, stepped back, closed the door. I stood there crying for 10 minutes before I could walk back to the house. The last 2 weeks before the move were the hardest. Every day, I'd pack another box, take down another picture, dismantle another piece of the life Robert and I had built. And every night, I'd watch Lily slip out to the barn, knowing each visit brought us closer to the last one. I didn't know how to explain to her that this was ending. Lily understood routines, but she didn't understand permanent change. How do you tell a nonverbal autistic child that the nightly visits she'd been making for 5 years were about to stop forever? I tried. I showed her pictures of the new house, talked about the new school, used the visual schedule cards her therapists had made, but I don't think she fully grasped it. Or maybe she did and just couldn't express what she felt about it. The moving truck was scheduled for June 15th, 2023. We'd leave that afternoon, drive the 2 hours to Louisville, start our new life. June 14th was Lily's last night in the farmhouse. Our last night. I let her stay up later than usual, didn't enforce bedtime, just watched her go through her evening routine, putting on her nightgown, brushing her teeth with the exact same motions she'd used for years. At 9 p.m., she looked at me, made the sound that meant she wanted to go outside. "Okay," I said softly, "one more time." I followed her to the barn. I'd been doing that more often in those final weeks, not hiding in the house anymore, but accompanying her to the door, never going inside the abandoned section, but at least being present. Lily opened the barn door and looked back at me, waiting. "You want me to come with you?" I asked. She made an affirmative sound, reached for my hand. My heart was pounding as I let her lead me through the main section of the barn, past the horse stalls — the horses were gone now, sold last week — to the door of the abandoned section. She pushed it open. The creature was there, sitting against the wall. It looked at Lily, then at me. No surprise in its expression, like it had been expecting this. Lily walked over and sat beside it in her usual spot. Patted the ground next to her, looking at me. She wanted me to sit too. I'd kept my distance for 5 years, watched from doorways, left food and supplies, spoken to it a few times, but I'd never sat with it, never been that close for more than a moment. Now my daughter was asking me to. I walked over slowly and sat down on Lily's other side. The 3 of us in a row against the wall, Lily in the middle. It was surreal. Sitting there in the dim light, filtering through the cracks, with my daughter and a creature that science said didn't exist, a creature that had been Lily's guardian, her companion, her friend for 5 years. The creature made a soft sound. I'd heard it make that sound to Lily before. Gentle, almost questioning. Lily responded with her own vocalization. They had communication, their own language that I wasn't part of, that I'd never fully been part of. We sat like that for over an hour, not talking, not moving much, just being together. At one point, the creature did something that made my throat tighten. It reached over Lily and touched my hand. Its finger was massive compared to mine, rough and calloused, but the touch was gentle, deliberate. Acknowledgement, maybe, or gratitude, or goodbye. I didn't pull away, just let it rest there for a moment before it withdrew. Around 11 p.m., Lily started getting drowsy. She leaned against the creature's side, her head resting against its arm. It adjusted slightly, making sure she was comfortable. I watched my daughter sleep against a Sasquatch and thought, this is the strangest, most impossible thing that's ever happened to me, and also the most beautiful. At midnight, I gently woke Lily. "Time to go inside, sweetheart. We have a big day tomorrow." She stirred, made a protesting sound, but got up slowly. She turned to the creature and did something she'd never done in front of me before. She hugged it, wrapped her small arms as far around its massive torso as she could reach, and held on. The creature made a sound, low, mournful, and carefully placed its arms around her, returning the embrace. They stayed like that for a long moment. Then Lily pulled back, touched the creature's face gently, and turned to leave. I stood up, looked at the creature one last time. "I wish I knew your name," I said quietly. "I wish I could really talk to you, tell you how much it meant that you watched over her, that you gave her something I couldn't." It tilted its head, watching me. "I'm leaving food in the barn, as much as I can, enough to last a while, and..." I hesitated. "If you ever need to leave this place, if the new owners, if you're not safe here anymore, there's woods about 3 miles north, state forest, protected land. It might be safer." I didn't know if it understood. Didn't know if it would even stay after we left. Maybe it would just disappear back into the wilderness it came from. "Goodbye," I whispered. "And thank you for everything." I took Lily's hand and led her out of the barn. She looked back once, made a soft sound. The creature was standing in the doorway of the abandoned section, watching us leave. It raised one hand in what looked like a wave. Lily waved back. Then we walked to the house, and I closed and locked the door for the last time. The next morning, the moving truck arrived at 8 a.m. I'd already done a final walkthrough of the house, making sure we'd packed everything. The barn still had the supplies I'd left: sacks of grain, canned goods, preserved foods. Enough for months if the creature rationed it. I didn't go back to check the abandoned section. Didn't want to know if the creature was still there or if it had already left. By 2 p.m., everything was loaded. The house was empty. The new owners were scheduled to take possession in 3 days. Lily stood in the driveway looking at the barn. She hadn't cried. Lily rarely cried, but she was stimming more than usual, rocking slightly, making repetitive sounds. Stressed, upset. "I know, baby," I said softly. "I know this is hard, but we'll be okay. You'll have new routines, new places to explore. It'll be different, but we'll be okay." She didn't look convinced. We got in the car. I started the engine, took one last look at the farm in the rearview mirror, and I saw it, just for a moment, a massive shape at the tree line near the barn, standing there, watching us leave. Then it turned and disappeared into the woods. I drove away crying, unable to tell Lily why. The new house in Louisville was small but nice, close to Lily's school, close to shopping, medical facilities, everything we needed. Practical, safe, normal. Lily hated it. She wouldn't sleep in her new room, would pace at night, going to the back door, making sounds of distress. She'd started sleeping in her bed for the first time in 5 years, and she didn't know how to do it anymore. Her behaviors escalated, more stimming, more meltdowns. She'd go to the back door and stare out at the small yard, the fence, the neighbors' houses close by, looking for something that wasn't there, looking for the barn, for her nightly routine, for her friend. It broke my heart. I tried everything. New routines, sensory toys, music, weighted blankets. Nothing helped. She was grieving, and I didn't know how to ease it. The school helped when she started in September. Structure, specialized instruction, occupational therapy. She adjusted slowly, made progress. But something was different. She was more withdrawn, less engaged. She'd lost something important, and I'd been the one who took it away. By December 2023, 6 months after the move, I started doing something that probably made me crazy. I started leaving food on the back porch. We didn't have a barn. We didn't have acres of woods. We had a small fenced yard in a residential neighborhood, but I left food anyway. Bread, vegetables, meat, just like I used to do at the farm. Every morning, the food was still there. Birds had pecked at it. Squirrels had taken some, but nothing else. Of course, nothing else. What was I expecting? That the creature had followed us 2 hours away? That it was watching our suburban house the way it had watched the farm? That was impossible, but I kept doing it anyway. kept leaving food, kept hoping. Christmas came, Lily's first Christmas away from the farm. I tried to make it special, decorated the tree, made her favorite foods, bought presents I knew she'd like. She seemed happy, but at night she'd still go to the back door, still look out at the darkness, still search for something that wasn't there. On Christmas Eve, I sat with her at the back window, both of us looking out at the yard, the fence, the streetlights in the distance. "I miss it too," I told her. "I miss the farm. I miss knowing that someone was watching over you. I'm sorry I took that away. I'm sorry." Lily leaned against me, made a soft sound. Not distress, just sadness. We sat there for a long time. Then I put her to bed, turned off the lights, and went to my own room. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound, something outside, movement, heavy footsteps on the back porch. My heart started racing. I got up, moved to the window, carefully pulled back the curtain. The back porch light was off. I hadn't turned it on. But in the moonlight, I could see the yard clearly, and I could see the figure standing at the fence. Massive, 8 feet tall, covered in dark hair, standing perfectly still, looking at the house, looking at Lily's window. I stood frozen, unable to breathe, unable to believe what I was seeing. It had followed us. Somehow, impossibly, it had found us. The creature stood there for maybe 5 minutes. Then it turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness between houses. I ran to Lily's room, opened her door quietly. She was sitting up in bed, looking at her window, smiling. The first real smile I'd seen since we moved. "Did you see it?" I whispered. "Did you see your friend?" She made a happy sound, laid back down, and fell asleep peacefully for the first time in 6 months. After that night, I started paying more attention, watching, listening, looking for signs. The food I left on the back porch started disappearing, not every night, but regularly, 2 or 3 times a week. And it wasn't squirrels or raccoons. The portions were too large, taken too completely. I'd find prints sometimes, in the morning dew on the grass, in the soft dirt near the fence, massive prints that shouldn't exist in a suburban neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky. The creature was here, watching, still protecting Lily even though we'd left its home. It had followed us, traveled 2 hours through who knows what terrain, somehow tracked us to a completely different location, and resumed its silent guardianship. The devotion in that, the loyalty, it overwhelmed me. I started leaving more food, better food, not scraps, but actual meals and supplies, a tarp when it rained, a blanket in winter. I'd leave them by the back fence at night. By morning, they'd be gone. Lily's behavior improved dramatically. The meltdowns decreased. She slept better. Still wouldn't sleep in her bed. She'd make a nest of blankets on the floor near her window, but she was peaceful, content. She knew her guardian was back. I never saw the creature clearly again after that Christmas Eve sighting. Just glimpses, shadows moving at the edge of the property late at night, the sense of being watched when I took the trash out after dark. Sounds from the small patch of woods behind our neighborhood, vocalizations that were too deep, too structured to be any animal I knew. Months passed. Lily adjusted to school, made progress with her therapists, but her nighttime routine returned. Not leaving the house this time, we were in a neighborhood with too many people, too many risks. But she'd sit at her window, watching, waiting. And sometimes, I swear, something would be watching back. I started researching our neighborhood. There was a green belt behind our street, a corridor of trees and undeveloped land that connected to a larger state park about a mile away. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough space for something large to hide, to move through, to exist without being seen. Had the creature found this place before settling near our house? Had it scouted the area, made sure there was somewhere it could stay safely? The intelligence that required, the planning, it was remarkable. In May 2024, almost a year after moving, something changed. I noticed the food I was leaving wasn't being taken as regularly. Sometimes it would sit for 2 or 3 days before disappearing. The prints became less frequent. I worried. Was the creature okay? Had something happened? Had it been spotted, chased away, hurt? Then, one morning in early June, I found something on the back porch that made my heart stop. A gift, like the ones it used to leave at the farm occasionally. A perfect bird's nest, carefully constructed, placed in the center of the porch, and inside the nest, 3 smooth stones arranged in a triangle. I picked up the nest with shaking hands. This was deliberate, intentional, a message. But what did it mean? That night, I sat at Lily's window with her. We watched the darkness together. Around midnight, I saw a movement at the tree line. The creature, standing just visible in the moonlight, watching the house. I opened the window, leaned out slightly. "Are you okay?" I called softly. "I've been worried." It didn't move, just stood there. At this distance, maybe 40 yards, I could see it more clearly than ever before. The breadth of its shoulders, the way it stood, perfectly balanced, the intelligence in its posture. "Thank you," I said. My voice cracked. "Thank you for following us, for still watching over her. You didn't have to do that. You could have stayed at the farm, found somewhere else. But you came here, for her." The creature raised one hand, slow, deliberate, the same gesture I'd seen the day we left the farm. Goodbye, or acknowledgement. Then it turned and walked into the woods. And I knew, somehow I just knew, that was the last time I'd see it. Over the next few weeks, the food I left stopped being taken. The prints disappeared. The sounds from the woods ceased. It was gone. Lily sensed it too, became restless again, anxious, looking for something that was no longer there. I didn't know where it had gone or why. Maybe it had decided Lily was safe enough now. Maybe the risk of being discovered in a populated area was too great. Maybe it had found somewhere else it needed to be. Or maybe, and this thought haunted me, maybe it was dying. Old age, illness, injury. Maybe it had stayed as long as it could and then gone somewhere private to die, the way some animals do. I'll never know. By August 2024, I was certain it wasn't coming back. The back porch remained empty. The woods were silent. The sense of being watched was gone. Lily was 15 now, thriving at her school, making progress I'd never thought possible. She had routines she loved, activities she enjoyed, even a few friends who understood her. She was going to be okay. She was growing up, becoming more independent, needing me less, needing a guardian less. Maybe the creature had known that. Maybe that's why it left. I'm telling this story now in September 2024 because I need someone to know the truth, not the official version. There is no official version. This story doesn't exist in any records, any files, any documentation. But it happened. For 6 years, a creature that science says doesn't exist lived in my barn and protected my autistic daughter, watched over her every single night, asked for nothing except a safe place to exist and occasional food. It gave Lily something I couldn't give her: acceptance without judgment, companionship without demands, protection without smothering. It never tried to change her or fix her or make her be something she wasn't. It just accepted her completely. And when we had to leave, when I took Lily away from the only home she'd known, that creature followed, traveled to a place it had never been, found us somehow, and continued watching over her for another year. That's loyalty. That's devotion. That's love. In whatever form beings like that are capable of love. People think of Sasquatch as monsters, dangerous, aggressive, something to be feared or hunted or captured. But the creature that lived in my barn was none of those things. It was gentle, protective, kind. It showed more patience with my daughter than most humans ever did. I don't know where it came from originally, don't know if there are others like it or if it was alone. Don't know why it chose my barn, my property, my daughter. But I know it was real. I know it existed. I know it changed our lives in ways I'm still trying to understand. Lily is doing well now. She still looks out her window sometimes at night, still makes the soft sound she used to make when the creature was near. I think she remembers. I think she understands, in her way, that her guardian is gone. But I also think she knows it kept her safe. That for 6 years of her life, something impossible watched over her, protected her, loved her. I've thought a lot about whether I should report this. Tell authorities. Try to get someone to investigate. Prove that these creatures exist. But I can't do that. I won't do that. Because that creature trusted me. It lived on my property for 5 years before I even knew it was there. When I discovered it, it could have hurt me, could have run, could have done anything. But it stayed. It let me see it. Let me be part of whatever that relationship with Lily was. And when I had to leave, when I had to disrupt everything, it didn't abandon Lily. It followed. It found us. It continued protecting her, even though it meant leaving its safe place and risking discovery in a populated area. I owe it privacy. I owe it protection. The same way it protected my daughter. So I'm telling this story without location details, without specific identifying information, without anything that would let someone track down where we lived or where the creature might have been. If you believe me, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just honoring a debt. My daughter had a guardian, a protector, a friend, something that saw her not as broken or disabled or difficult, but just as Lily. And it loved her for exactly who she was. That's a gift, a precious, impossible gift, and I'm grateful for every day of those 6 years. To anyone listening who has an autistic child, who struggles to connect with them, who worries they're not doing enough, sometimes love comes from unexpected places. Sometimes protection comes from sources we don't understand. Sometimes our children find exactly what they need in ways we never could have planned. Trust that. Trust them. Trust that the universe sometimes provides guardians we can't see or understand. And to the creature, wherever you are now, if you're still alive, if you're watching over someone else, if you're just existing somewhere in peace, thank you. Thank you for watching over my daughter when I couldn't see all the dangers. Thank you for giving her companionship when the human world was too harsh. Thank you for following us when you didn't have to. Thank you for loving her in your way. You were never a monster. You were never something to be feared. You were family, and you will always, always be remembered. Lily still keeps the nest you left on our porch. It sits on her dresser with the 3 stones arranged in their triangle. She touches it sometimes, gently, the way she used to touch your hand. I think she's saying thank you, too. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe. I hope you're at peace. I hope you know that you mattered, that what you did mattered. You saved my daughter in ways I'm still discovering. Not from physical danger, though you did that too, but from loneliness, from isolation, from feeling like she didn't belong anywhere. You showed her she belonged exactly as she was. That's the greatest gift anyone ever gave her, and I will protect your memory the same way you protected her, with everything I have, forever. My name is Martha Coleman. This is my story. This is the truth, and I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm just asking you to consider that maybe, just maybe, there are things in this world that are stranger and more beautiful than we ever imagined. Things that watch over us in the darkness. Things that love without condition. Things that protect the vulnerable not because they have to, but because that's who they are. I met one of those things. It lived in my barn for 6 years, and it changed everything I thought I knew about monsters, about intelligence, about love. It wasn't a monster at all. It was an angel, just one we didn't have a name for.